Imagine walking through a misty Swiss forest on a quiet Sunday morning. The air is crisp, the birds are singing, and then you see it. A tall figure emerges from the shadows, dressed head to toe in military gear, face completely hidden behind an antique gas mask. It doesn't speak, it doesn't run, it just stares at you, then turns and vanishes into the trees. For over a decade, this wasn't a nightmare. This was reality for the residents of Maules, Switzerland, and when one photographer finally captured proof, the figure left behind a haunting suicide note and disappeared forever. This is the true story of Loyon, the ghost of Maules Forest. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we dive deep into the world's most mysterious and unexplained phenomena, from cryptids to urban legends that turned out to be disturbingly real. And today's story? It's one that blurs the line between all of those categories. Before we begin, I need you to do me a favor. If you find this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps us bring you more incredible content like this. And stick around until the end, because we're going to explore not just what happened, but the actual eyewitness testimonies that made this legend so terrifying. Now, let's travel to western Switzerland, to a region known for rolling green hills, medieval castles, and world-famous Gruyere cheese. But in the early 2000s, this picturesque landscape became home to something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. The village of Maules sits in the municipality of Saal, within the canton of Fribourg. It's a tiny hamlet with around 350 residents, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where children play freely in the streets, and where the surrounding forest has been a place of peace and recreation for generations. But that peace was about to be shattered by a figure that would haunt these woods for over 10 years. The Gruyere district in western Switzerland is renowned for its pastoral beauty. Rolling green hills stretch as far as the eye can see, dotted with traditional Swiss chalets and ancient stone churches. Medieval towns like the nearby Château de Gruyere draw thousands of tourists each year. And of course, there's the world-famous Gruyere cheese that bears the region's name. But the forests are different. Dense and brooding, often cloaked in mist, these ancient woods are steeped in legends passed down through generations. The trees here grow thick and close together, creating canopies that block out the sun even at midday. In the early morning or late evening, fog rolls through the valleys and clings to the forest floor, making it impossible to see more than a few meters ahead. The locals have always known these woods. They're filled with hiking trails that families have walked for decades. There's a small oratory, a place of prayer and meditation, tucked away on one of the paths. Picnic spots where children play while their parents relax on sunny afternoons. In spring and summer, wildflowers bloom in the clearings, painting the forest floor with splashes of color. This was a place of peace, of tradition, of community, until Le Loyon arrived. The first whispers started in the early 2000s. Some residents reported seeing a strange giant wandering the woods. At first, people dismissed these stories as typical small-town gossip. Every village has its cautionary tales, after all. Parents have been warning children about forest dangers since time immemorial. But these warnings were different, because this time, the danger wasn't imaginary. This time, it wore a gas mask. The first encounter. The flower picker. One of the earliest documented encounters with Le Loyon is both the most poetic and the most unsettling of all the sightings. A local woman was walking through the forest one day in June when she came upon a clearing near one of the main trails. There, in the middle of this peaceful spot, stood a tall figure dressed in military garb, completely masked, and it was picking wildflowers. Think about that scene for a moment. A figure over 6 feet tall, wearing a dark boiler suit, draped in a camouflage cloak, its face completely hidden behind an antique gas mask, carefully selecting wildflowers and gathering them into a bouquet. It should have been almost beautiful in its oddity, a strange being connecting with nature in such a gentle human way. But then Loyon noticed the woman. The figure immediately dropped the flowers and fled into the undergrowth. No words, no threatening gestures, just instant panic and retreat. The bouquet of wildflowers lay scattered on the ground as Loyon vanished into the trees. The woman later described the encounter with a haunting question. Who was the most frightened? It's a profound observation. Here was this terrifying figure that would eventually become known as the ghost of Maules, and yet in that moment, it seemed more afraid of her than she was of it. Loyon wasn't stalking her, wasn't trying to intimidate her. The figure had simply been lost in a quiet moment of flower picking, only to be interrupted by human contact. This encounter established the pattern that would define Loyon for the next decade. The figure was shy, reclusive, actively avoiding interaction. It sought solitude in the forest, not confrontation. But that didn't make it any less terrifying to those who stumbled upon it. Marianne Desclous' Rainy Sunday. Marianne Desclous was one of the few witnesses willing to be named in news reports about Loyon. Her encounter became one of the most frequently cited testimonies, perhaps because she described it so vividly, capturing both the visual horror and the psychological impact of seeing the ghost of Maules. It was a rainy Sunday, one of those gray, misty days that are common in the Swiss forests. The kind of day where visibility is poor and sounds are muffled by the damp air. Marianne was walking along one of the familiar trails when she saw him. He had on a hood, a dark cape, and his gas mask, she later told reporters. The rain made the encounter even more surreal. Water dripped from the trees. The forest was quiet except for the soft patter of raindrops on leaves. And there, emerging from the mist, like something from a nightmare, was this tall, cloaked figure with a gas mask covering its entire head. What could be going through his head? I don't know, but it was unforgettable and unpleasant. I hope I don't run into him again, Marianne said. But what struck her most wasn't just the appearance, it was the complete mystery of motivation. What drives someone to dress like this? What thoughts go through the mind of a person walking alone in a forest, completely obscured by a gas mask, in the rain? Marianne's testimony reveals something important about Loyon's impact on the community. This wasn't just fear of the unknown. It was a deeper unease, a persistent question that couldn't be answered. Why? After her encounter, Marianne changed her habits. She stopped walking alone in the forest, and she wasn't the only one. The Sunday pattern emerges. As more sightings were reported, a pattern began to emerge. Loyon appeared most frequently on Sundays, though not exclusively. There was something particularly eerie about this detail. Sundays in Swiss villages are traditionally peaceful days. Families attend church in the morning, then spend afternoons together, taking walks, having picnics, enjoying the natural beauty of their surroundings. The forests around Maules would be at their busiest on Sunday afternoons, filled with locals taking their traditional weekend walks. And that's exactly when Loyon would appear. Multiple witnesses described coming across the figure on hiking paths, always in the same general area of the forest. He came out of the undergrowth in his military clothes, one unnamed witness reported. You can't see his face or his eyes behind his big, dark gas mask. It was frightening, and I know women who no longer venture into the forest alone. This witness touched on something crucial: the impact on the community's behavior. The forests that had been enjoyed freely for generations were now places of anxiety. Women, in particular, began to avoid walking alone. Parents kept their children closer on family outings. The simple pleasure of a Sunday walk was now tinged with fear. Some witnesses reported seeing Loyon and immediately turning back, abandoning their hikes. Others described the figure watching them from a distance, then slowly backing away into the trees when noticed. Always silent, always mysterious. One observer noted that Loyon went out of his way to disappear into the forest and avoid them. The figure wasn't stalking people. It was fleeing from them. Yet, somehow, this made the encounters even more unsettling. What was Le Loyon hiding from? Or hiding in general? The community began to talk. Theories circulated in cafes and at church gatherings. Was this a hermit? A person with a disfigurement? Someone mentally ill? A prankster trying to frighten people? But year after year, the sightings continued, and no one had any answers. The hot summer morning. A child's fear. Not all encounters happened in the misty atmospheric conditions we might expect from a ghost story. One of the most disturbing sightings occurred on one very hot Sunday morning in July 2012. 3 people were near one of the forest-designated picnic spots. The sun was bright, the temperature already climbing to uncomfortable levels. It was the kind of morning where you'd expect to see families arriving with coolers and blankets, ready for a day of outdoor relaxation. Instead, they saw Le Loyon emerge from the forest, fully dressed in white chemical protection coveralls and wearing his gas mask. Let's pause on this detail. It was a hot summer morning, likely in the high 70s or low 80s Fahrenheit, and this figure was wearing a full chemical protection suit and a gas mask. The physical discomfort must have been extreme. The suit would have trapped heat against the body. Breathing through the gas mask would have been difficult. Every step would have generated more body heat with no way to cool down. This detail tells us something important about Le Loyon, his commitment to whatever mission or purpose drove these forest walks. This wasn't a casual stroll. The person inside that suit was willing to endure significant physical discomfort to continue their ritual. But what made this encounter particularly significant was the presence of a child. The child who was with us was scared, the witness reported simply. But those few words carry enormous weight. Imagine being a young child, enjoying a sunny morning in a familiar forest, when suddenly this figure emerges, looking like something from a science fiction movie or a war zone. The white chemical suit would have been blindingly bright in the summer sun. The gas mask would have made the figure's head look inhuman, alien. Parents testified that Le Loyon terrified their children. This single encounter encapsulated why. Children are resilient and imaginative, but they're also deeply sensitive to threats they don't understand. Le Loyon represented exactly that, an inexplicable, unsettling presence in a place that should have been safe. After incidents like this, family dynamics changed. Parents who had happily let their children explore the forest edges while they set up picnics now kept them within arm's reach. The forest, that had been a place of freedom and adventure, became a place of fear. The community's growing concern. By 2012 and 2013, Le Loyon had become a serious concern for local authorities. The figure had been appearing regularly for nearly a decade. If almost 1 out of 10 adults in an area have seen something terrifying, or, at best, unsettling, you can understand why the ghost of Maules had such a grip on the people of this area for so long. Think about those statistics. In a village of 350 people, that could mean 30 or more adult residents had direct encounters with Le Loyon. In such a small community, that's nearly 1 in 10 households. Everyone knew someone who had seen the figure. The grocery store clerk, the teacher at the local school, the farmer who supplies the local market. They all had stories. Guy Savary, the municipal official in charge of the forests, found himself in a difficult position. The situation is delicate because we basically have nothing against this person, he told Le Matin. But since he arouses these fears, we are going to hold meetings to see if we can find a way of locating him and discouraging him from behaving as he does. Here was the central problem. Le Loyon had broken no laws. Walking in public forests wearing unusual clothing isn't illegal, no matter how disturbing that clothing might be. The figure had never threatened anyone, never approached anyone aggressively, never trespassed on private property. From a legal standpoint, there was nothing the police could do. One local farmer, perhaps concerned about the loss of seasonal tourism trade, complained, "Families simply won't go into the forest anymore." And he was right. The economic impact was real. Hiking was a draw for tourists visiting the region. Local businesses, restaurants, hotels, shops benefited from visitors who came to enjoy the natural beauty of the area. But who wants to hike in a forest haunted by a gas-masked figure? Local residents saw their once quiet and picturesque town becoming famous for this strange and menacing figure, who, in turn, was quickly becoming the Swiss version of the Loch Ness Monster. But unlike Nessie, Loyon was undeniably real. People weren't seeing something in the water that might be a log or a wave. They were coming face to face with an actual person dressed in genuinely disturbing attire. The police took reports. They increased patrols in the forest area. Officers kept their eyes open during routine drives through the region. But Loyon was elusive. The figure seemed to know the forest intimately, disappearing into the undergrowth whenever discovered, navigating paths that allowed for quick escapes. For 10 years, this strange standoff continued. The community wanted Loyon gone. The authorities wanted to help but had no legal justification to intervene, and Loyon kept walking. The photographer's encounter, September 2013. Everything changed in September 2013. An unnamed amateur photographer was hiking in the forest near Maules. Perhaps they had heard the stories about Loyon and were hoping for a glimpse. Or perhaps they simply happened to be in the right place at the right time. Either way, they had their camera ready when the encounter happened. The photographer later described the moment to journalists. "I came across him near the marshes. I approached him up to a dozen meters away. 12 meters, about 40 feet, close enough to see details clearly, close enough to capture a sharp photograph, close enough to be genuinely frightened if the figure had chosen to approach. He had a military cape, boots, and an army gas mask. An antique type, I think. He measured more than 190 meters. He stared at me, then turned his back and left in silence." Let's examine what happened in those crucial seconds. The photographer approached to within 12 meters, much closer than most witnesses had dared to get. Loyon stood there, not fleeing immediately as in previous encounters. The figure stared at the photographer through the dark lenses of the gas mask. What was going through Loyon's mind in that moment? Did they see the camera? Did they know that this photograph would change everything? Or were they simply frozen in that eternal dilemma? Flee and confirm the fear, or stay still and hope to be ignored? After what must have felt like an eternity but was probably only seconds, Loyon turned and walked away. No running, no panic, just a silent retreat into the forest. And the photographer had their picture. The image shows exactly what witnesses had described for years. A tall figure, well over 6 feet, standing in the forest. The dark boiler suit is visible beneath the camouflage cloak. The gas mask completely obscures any human features. Heavy boots suggest someone prepared for serious hiking. The posture is strangely calm, almost casual, as if this is the most normal thing in the world. But it's the mask that dominates the photograph. That dark, round, insect-like appearance, the way it erases all humanity from the figure. You can't see eyes, can't see skin, can't see any hint of the person underneath. It's like looking at a void in human form. The photograph goes viral. On August 30th, 2013, the Swiss French-language newspaper Le Matin published the photograph alongside eyewitness accounts and background information about the decade of sightings. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Within hours, the story had spread across Switzerland. Within days, it had gone international. News outlets from Australia to Poland, from Sweden to Hong Kong picked up the story. English-language media came up with various nicknames. Switzerland's answer to the Loch Ness Monster, the Swiss Batman, the gas-masked ghost. The photograph did something that 10 years of word-of-mouth stories couldn't do. It provided undeniable proof. This wasn't urban legend. This wasn't folklore passed down through generations. This was a real person, photographed in 2013, wearing a gas mask and walking through the Swiss woods. The internet did what the internet does. Amateur investigators tried to identify the type of gas mask. History enthusiasts debated whether it was a World War I or World War II model. Skeptics claimed it was a hoax. Believers saw it as proof of, well, something unexplained. Tourism in Maules saw a bizarre spike. Curiosity seekers came from across Europe, hoping to catch a glimpse of Loyon themselves. The quiet forest paths that had been avoided by locals were suddenly filled with strangers with cameras, all hoping to be the next to photograph the ghost of Maules. Le Matin reported in a follow-up piece on September 4, 2013, that they had received numerous submissions from readers who created fake Loyon photos as a joke. The article was titled "False Loyon Abound," noting that the phenomenon had inspired copycats and pranksters. People dressed up in gas masks and took pictures in various Swiss forests, sending them to the newspaper. Some were obvious jokes. Others were more elaborate attempts at hoaxes. The original mystery had spawned an entire ecosystem of imitators. But for Loyon, the real Loyon, this media circus must have been a nightmare. For 10 years, they had maintained their privacy. They had walked the forest paths, pursuing whatever solitary purpose drove them, disturbing others only accidentally. They had remained anonymous, unknown, a ghost in truth as well as nickname. Now their image was on news websites around the world. Strangers were flooding into their sanctuary, hoping to find them. The quiet forest therapy that they would later describe in their note was destroyed by publicity. In late September 2013, just weeks after the photograph went viral, several hikers made a discovery in the Maules forest. In a clearing, one of the spots where Loyon had been most frequently sighted, they found the clothing. The distinctive camouflage cloak lay folded on the forest floor. Beside it was the gas mask, that iconic symbol of the mystery. And next to them both was a handwritten note. The note was titled "L'acte de décès et testament du fantôme de Maules," the death certificate and testament of the ghost of Maules. Le Matin published the full text of the note on November 26, 2013. It was also posted in the local municipal bulletin of Salle, making it an official part of the public record. The note was bitter, heartbroken, and deeply revealing. It began by directly addressing the newspaper, calling the reporter Patrick du Matin, and making a shocking accusation. Not only are you a moron, but you are above all an assassin. You murdered a very harmless being. Murdered. Not harmed. Not inconvenienced. Murdered. The note continued. You murdered a very harmless being who found in his walks a real therapy of happiness, a cerebral resourcing allowing him to face the responsibilities and the vicissitudes of his normal life, and he had some. This passage is crucial. It reveals that Loyon had what they called a normal life. A life with responsibilities. A life with vicissitudes. Challenges, difficulties, changes. The forest walks in costume weren't their entire existence. They were a coping mechanism, a form of therapy that allowed them to handle the pressures of whatever their normal life entailed. The note referenced Sacher-Masoch, Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, the 19th century Austrian writer whose name gave us the term masochism. You do not seem to know Sacher-Masoch, Loyon wrote. You will discover that it takes everything to make a world. This literary reference suggested someone educated, well-read, someone familiar with 19th century European literature and philosophy. It also hinted at the psychological dimension of the walks. Perhaps there was some element of pleasure in the discomfort, in the social alienation, in the frightening appearance. The note then compared the media treatment to medieval witch hunts. Then you are an assassin of freedoms. To hear you, we find ourselves in the Middle Ages, at the time of the witches. Loyon questioned why society condemned harmless forest walks while tolerating little toads, helmets and hoods, dressed in leather, who backfire on their motorcycles in these same forests, them in violation. The comparison was pointed. Motorcyclists who actually broke laws by riding illegally in the forest were ignored, while Loyon, who broke no laws, was hunted. The note mentioned the small oratory in the forest. Do they take the time to meditate in front of the little oratory to ask for a better world? This detail suggested a spiritual or philosophical dimension to the walks. Le Loyon wasn't just wandering. They were contemplating, meditating, perhaps praying. The note concluded with the ominous phrase, "Le risque d'une chasse à la bête," the risk of a hunt for the beast. The ambiguous ending. The wording of Le Loyon's final note has been debated endlessly. Was it a suicide note? A farewell letter? A symbolic death? The way the note was worded led some to believe that Le Loyon had committed suicide somewhere in the woods, though no body has ever been uncovered to this day. Searches were conducted. Police and volunteers scoured the forest looking for any sign of a body. They checked ravines, looked near water sources, searched areas where someone might have chosen to end their life. Nothing was ever found. This absence of a body has led most researchers to conclude that Le Loyon didn't literally die. They simply killed their alter ego. The ghost of Maules was gone, but the person behind the mask presumably returned to their normal life, carrying the secret forever. One of the prevailing theories is that the figure was an eccentric local who was afraid of being linked to Le Loyon and abandoned their costumed walks as a result. Think about what this means. If Le Loyon was indeed a local resident, as seems most likely, they would have watched the entire media circus unfold. They would have seen strangers flooding into their village. They would have heard neighbors speculating about the identity. They would have attended community meetings where the Le Loyon problem was discussed. And through it all, they would have remained silent, their secret intact. After the note was discovered, there were no more sightings. The forests of Maules returned to their normal, quiet state. Families gradually began hiking again. The media attention faded as newer mysteries captured the world's interest. Le Loyon had vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving behind only questions, a single photograph, and a heartbreaking note about lost freedom. Witnesses reflect. The lasting impact. Years after Le Loyon's disappearance, the impact on witnesses remained profound. For Marianne Decloux and others who had encountered the figure, the experience was never truly forgotten. Decloux stated she would never return to the forest again. The place that had once been a source of joy and relaxation had been permanently tainted by that rainy Sunday encounter. Other witnesses had more complex reactions. Some felt vindicated when the photograph finally proved they hadn't been imagining things or exaggerating. For a decade, they had told friends and family about the gas-masked figure, only to be met with skepticism. The photograph confirmed this really happened. Others developed a strange sympathy for Le Loyon after reading the note. They realized that the figure they had feared was itself afraid. Afraid of attention, afraid of exposure, afraid of losing the one thing that brought peace to their life. The victim and the victimizer had both been victims in different ways. Parents who had kept their children away from the forest faced difficult questions. How do you explain to a child that the scary figure is gone, that they can play in the woods again? Some families never returned to those hiking trails, choosing instead to explore other areas where memories weren't tainted. For the community as a whole, Le Loyon became part of Maules' history. It's a story that residents tell visitors, that grandparents share with grandchildren. Did I ever tell you about the time I saw Le Loyon? It has become part of the village's identity, a strange and unsettling chapter that sets Maules apart from every other quiet Swiss hamlet. Tour guides in the broader Gruyère region sometimes mention Le Loyon when leading groups through the area. The story has tourist appeal, not the scary kind anymore, but the mysterious kind. People want to know, what really happened? Who was behind the mask? Are they still living in Maules? These questions remain unanswered, and perhaps that's appropriate. Loyon sought anonymity and, despite all the attention and investigation, ultimately achieved it. The mystery of identity. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Loyon case is how close the truth might have been to the surface. Several pieces of evidence suggest that local authorities knew, or strongly suspected, the figure's identity. Remember Guy Savary's curious statement? The municipal official mentioned that Loyon loved the chapel and would meditate there. But according to witness reports, Loyon was never seen near the village or the chapel, only deep in the forest. How would Savary know about this relationship unless he knew the person's true identity? This slip suggests that in a village of 350 people, where everyone knows everyone, some officials might have connected the dots. Perhaps they recognized the build, the height, the gait. Perhaps someone saw the distinctive boots being worn by a local resident and made the connection. Perhaps Loyon was careless one Sunday and was spotted putting on or taking off the costume. If local officials did know the identity, their decision to protect it is both understandable and remarkable. In our modern age of surveillance and social media, where privacy is increasingly difficult to maintain, the idea that a small community would collectively choose to protect one of their own, despite the fear and disruption caused, is almost touching. It suggests that Loyon might have been someone respected in the community. A teacher, perhaps, or a shopkeeper, a farmer, a local government employee. Someone whose public reputation would have been destroyed if their secret hobby became known. The alternative theory, that no one ever discovered the identity, is almost harder to believe. In a village that small with that many sightings over that many years, someone must have figured it out. The fact that the secret has held for over a decade since Loyon's retirement suggests a deliberate conspiracy of silence, a community-wide agreement to let one of their own keep their dignity. The story of Loyon is ultimately a human story told through the eyes of frightened witnesses who never understood what they were seeing. From the woman who saw wildflowers scattered on the ground to Marianne Declue on that rainy Sunday, to the family with a frightened child on a hot summer morning, to the photographer who came within 12 meters of the ghost. Each witness captured a fragment of a larger, sadder truth. They weren't encountering a monster or a supernatural entity. They were encountering a person in pain, someone desperately seeking solitude and peace in the only way they knew how. The gas mask that terrified them was armor that protected a vulnerable human being. The silence they found so unnerving was someone who had nothing to say, or perhaps too much to say and no way to say it. For over 10 years, someone walked those forest paths, seeking therapy in nature and isolation. They picked wildflowers. They meditated at a small oratory. They endured physical discomfort in full chemical suits on hot summer days because whatever inner discomfort they were fleeing was worse. They harmed no one, broke no laws, and asked only to be left alone. Then, a photograph destroyed everything. The sanctuary became a circus. The therapy became a headline. And the ghost of Maules wrote one final, heartbroken note about murdered freedom before disappearing forever. The forests of Maules are quiet now. The hiking trails are once again safe for families. The gas-masked figure has vanished into legend. But somewhere in that village of 350 people, someone knows the truth. Someone carries the secret. Someone remembers what it was like to walk those paths in complete anonymity, free from the person they had to be every other day of the week. And maybe, just maybe, they miss it. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into the mystery of Loyon. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm show our content to more mystery enthusiasts like yourself. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We upload new videos every week exploring the world's most intriguing mysteries, from urban legends to unexplained phenomena. You won't want to miss what's coming next. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Which eyewitness account struck you the most? Do you think Loyon was right to blame the media? What do you think happened to the person behind the mask? Are they still living in Maules? Or did they move away to start fresh somewhere else? Leave your theories in the comments below. I read every single one and love engaging with our community. For more mysterious content, check out the video appearing on your screen right now about other modern urban legends that turned out to be true. Trust me, you're going to love it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most mysterious figures in history are the ones walking the same forests and streets that we do, hiding in plain sight, carrying secrets we'll never know.